CSBG quarterly call. And I am Alex Diaz, Program Manager for CSBG with the Colorado Department of Local Affairs. We're also joined by Becky Saad, who is the Program Coordinator with the Colorado Department of Local Affairs for the CSBG program, and the VFP Program Manager as well. And Josiah with the CCAA, Josiah Massengale, Liz Espinoza, and probably Jessica Roshan in the room somewhere as well. So thank you all for being here as well. So we will jump right into it with a land acknowledgement. The Colorado DOLA building itself is situated on the traditional land of several indigenous groups, to include the Sioux, Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples. Additionally, our reach extends throughout the state, covering the traditional lands of indigenous groups and cultures who have stewarded this land throughout generations and continue to do so today. We acknowledge and express respect and gratitude for these people and are committed to continually working to create a long-lasting, non-extractive, and supportive relationship with Native people throughout Colorado. Next, we are going to chat about the program implementation manual update. After many hours of really going through the program manual with a fine-tooth comb and having extensive training and technical assistance ourselves so that we feel confident in what we're doing, we have finalized the program implementation manual. So it will be sent out after this call as a final version and also updated on the CSBG grantee resources page. And so we will have an upcoming training on the specifics of the program implementation manual, both as a refresher on what we've changed, as well as for new or anybody who wants to really fine tune their understanding of how the program is managed at the state level. We'll have an in-depth training on that. So today we're just going to touch on a few topics regarding the program implementation manual and what we've updated. To start with subrecipients, we really tried to bolster this section of the manual so that eligible entities who have subrecipients feel like they have a thorough understanding of what they're responsible for specifically, and in particular in regards to monitoring. One thing that we've noticed is a need for some training and technical assistance around what it looks like for an eligible entity to then monitor their subrecipients. So we've really clearly outlined the fact that every eligible entity with subrecipients should be monitoring all of their subrecipients every year. And one thing that we change is if there are any non-compliance concerns, then we do request a copy of that report as well, so that we're aware of those and can support any training and technical assistance that is required. So that is one change that we've made, and hopefully some of the additional verbiage and resources that we pulled in that section also help clarify what some of those requirements are for subrecipients. And another section that we really have paid a lot of attention to is the tripartite board section. Again, pulling in resources from a number of federal resources and a number of sources to really clearly outline what the tripartite board duties, responsibilities, requirements are, and how we will monitor that. And one section that has shifted a little bit is the board composition and how we look at that at the state level, in part because we're always doing our own training and technical assistance to ensure that we understand how these things are perceived at a federal level and how we need to be monitoring them. So one thing that we are shifting a little bit going forward is how we perceive the board composition. So the verbiage that is used indicates that the low income sector should be, let me pull this up in my, so that I have the actual verbiage here. It indicates that the low income sector must be at least 1/3 of the composition of the board. So that's pretty straightforward. It has to be at least 33% and the biggest portion of the tripartite board or advisory committee overall. And then how we've kind of perceived the publicly elected sector, the verbiage is it should be 1/3. And we have historically kind of asked people to just ensure that the publicly elected sector was the next biggest. So for example, in this slide that we have up right now, the publicly elected sector has 2 seats, which is technically 27%, 29%. But since it was the next biggest sector, that would be sort of permissible. But we're shifting a little bit so that that publicly elected sector has to be at least 33% of the board, or it has to be 33% or more. So this is a little bit of a differentiation in how we've interpreted this. So I will say this does not impact most of our eligible entities. So, feel free to check. And if it does impact you and you have questions, let us know. But this does not impact most of our eligible entities. And it will be something that we consider going forward. So if you fall into this, for example, 322 sort of example that we've used here, and historically that's been fine, that will continue to be fine. And you don't need to run and change anything right now. We just ask that as you're looking at future tripartite board and advisory committee placements and seats, that you take into consideration that that publicly elected sector should be 33% and not just the second biggest any longer. So that's kind of the change that's happening there. Again, ask us if you have questions and if that pertains to you specifically. That's a lot of time for something that doesn't pertain to a ton of folks, but we want to make sure that it's really clear. Josiah, did you have anything to add to that, or anything that you feel like would be helpful to clarify for folks?
Just a clarification that it's the publicly elected or their designee sector should be at least 33% or higher. So in the example here, we have 322, and a more appropriate structure, according to our understanding, that it would actually be 3 low income, 3 public elected official or their designee, and then 1 in the remainder sector. And so in this example, it would be 3, 3, 1. And so the low income and the publicly elected would both be 43%, and the remainder would be at 14%.
That's a fantastic clarification. Thank you, Josiah. Yeah. So again, it's a little bit technical, and CSBG is a little bit technical. So we like to share these things with you as they come up. Anytime you have questions, let us know. Moving on to the budgets. Thank you to everyone for submitting your program year 2023 budget. We appreciate it very much. Those are under review at the moment. And if we have any questions, then we will certainly let you know. And again, one of the shifts that we want to let folks know about now is how those budgets will be happening for the 2024 program year. So those will coincide with the new application for CSBG that is going to be due in October of 2023. And we are going to ask that 2024 budgets include a cost allocation plan if that's relevant to your entity. So for folks who are charging CSBG expenses directly based on something like time or specific activities, that you won't need a cost allocation plan per se, because you have a specific expense that you're charging directly. But for folks who do it as either a proportion of poverty in your area or something else, we are going to ask for those plans to be in writing and to be submitted with the next budget, so that we can ensure that we understand what that's based on, and we can provide any training and technical assistance for folks who need to develop those. But we're really trying to get very clear on how we monitor expenses, and so we will be asking for those going forward as well. If you have any questions, let us know. Again, cost allocation plans are one of those really fun CSBG areas that we get to spend a lot of time on sometimes. So they can be very technical. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat, and we can address them as we go through the call as well. Or unmute yourself and get chatty. That's always encouraged as well. We also have news on updated federal guidelines, specifically regarding the federal poverty level, as well as the mileage reimbursement rate that is used for CSBG. The federal poverty level, I believe, was just finalized today, actually. So we pulled that today. It is updated on our grantee resources page, and you can see that here. I did want to mention that if you have subrecipients and other partners that you work with, it's really helpful to ensure that they've received the message about these updated guidelines as well. Not everybody has that on their radar immediately. So it's pretty helpful to pass that along to anybody else who might be impacted, and ensure that the correct tables are being used, especially for something like income eligibility verification. Again, that's on our grantee resources page. Anytime you have questions, please let us know. And that 200% federal poverty level that we are currently using will be in place through this federal fiscal year, i.e. September 30th, 2023. So the short-term changes and questions will subside for a moment until they come up again, inevitably. I did want to make a comment about option letters as well. We've talked about the first option letter for 2023 has been released. And I just really wanted to do to highlight that it also includes, for example, this $782 that you see here, that's the 1% allocation for 2022. That last 1% allocation for 2022 funds. So as you're looking at your budget and your allocation, it's important to note that technically that 1% does apply to 2022 funds. And then this first option letter for 2023 has been released, and we will see more going forward. But I just really like to drive home that point that those are kind of separate pots of money with separate expiration dates. So you can see on your option letter, which you can find in the grants portal, and ask me if you need help finding that, that it does specifically list the expiration date for each pot of funds, which can be very helpful for folks who are doing their first in, first out and really trying to determine which budget line to draw down from. And if you have discretionary funds, also pay close attention, please, to the expiration dates for those as well, because the way that discretionary funds are allocated is a little bit different. And so the expiration date wouldn't always be what you would expect it to be. So confirm on your option letter that you have the right expiration dates, please, for everything. And as requests for reimbursements are being submitted, since these option letters have been executed, your contract totals have increased as well. So the way that that impacts your request for reimbursement is that that total box, which I believe is 9B or 9C, will be higher now. So Becky's does a great job of seeing those and letting you know if that's not quite right. But it's helpful to have that total be accurate for reconciliation purposes between the eligible entity and our records as well, so that everyone's on the same page. Moving on, community needs assessment season is upon us. So we just want to be sure that eligible entities have their eye on the prize, because those will be due in their final form in October of 2023, along with the full CSBG application. And given that it is such a complex, in-depth process, an important process too, it does take a long time. So we are going to start putting our updated resources out here in February of 2023. And there are existing webinars and materials both on the grantee resources page, as well as the CCAA's page has a wealth of resources. So as you are, there's a dog barking in the background, as you're starting to do your community needs assessment, no, there's already things up. You don't have to wait for the new stuff to come out. There won't necessarily be a ton of updates. So if you need to get started on those quickly, then you can certainly do that at any point, but you can expect official updated webinars coming out from us soon. The annual report is also, we're in the midst of it really. We have already conducted our first annual report webinar and training. It is recorded and posted on the CSBG grantee resources page. And we also have a THO webinar that is from last year, but since there were very few material changes into how that software platform works, we have not redone that. So again, those are due February 14th, 2023, in part so that we have time to adequately review those submissions and then get feedback to the eligible entities. Pretty much everyone can probably anticipate some kind of feedback, but we are getting better at it as a whole. So whether it's questions about data that doesn't quite match up, or additional comments that are needed due to targeting outside ranges that are outside of targeting ranges, anticipate that you will probably get some comments back. And we do ask that as much as possible you address those quickly, because our deadline is the end of March to get those in at the state level to the feds. So we very much appreciate everyone's support in submitting on a timely basis, as well as responding to any feedback or questions that we may have. And again, this is another really complex process with a lot of nuance. So we're putting out training resources, and we try to have a lot of links and things on our pages, but anytime you have specific questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and we will be happy to provide in-depth training and technical assistance to anybody who needs it. And then one random D as a bullet, disregard that part. But for CARES wrap up, we just wanted to say thank you to everybody. CARES is officially over. We will still have to report on it with this annual report, but it should be the last time that we report on CARES funds. and all activities have, ceased that are officially funded by any type of CARES funding. And we had a minimal amount of funds that we ended up having to send back to the feds. So thank you to everyone, your diligence in getting those much needed resources out into the community and really serving people in a time of great need. I think it really helped prove that the community services network in general, and specifically in Colorado, is well suited to respond at a community level, in times of great need. So thank you, congratulations. Everybody should feel incredible about the work that you've done to do some really impactful work in a very difficult time, and we very much appreciate it. So thank you for that. I see a question from Courtney. Do we need to resubmit our semi-annual reports in addition to the annual report? So semi-annual reports, I think were already submitted recently, I believe September or something like that, but they're completely different reports. So whatever the deadlines are for each of those reports, keep them. So the annual report will be February 14th, and then the semi-annual report is due every 6 months, and that deals more specifically with like the specific tripartite board composition and things like that. So
the next semi-annual report is actually January 31st. So they do feel pretty close together this year.
Yeah, that is very close together, isn't it? Thank you, Becky. Yes, so the semi-annual report will be submitted in addition to the annual report. So 2 separate reports being submitted very closely together. Thanks for the question, Courtney. We appreciate it. And then if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to come off mute about anything that I've covered. Otherwise, I am going to stop sharing and hand it over to my fantastic colleague, Josiah, at the Colorado Community Action Association.
Thanks, great DOLA partners. I'm actually going to allow Liz to take it from here and talk a little bit about VITA.
Thanks, Josiah. So for our volunteer income tax assistance program, we are just getting ready to kick off our season. The IRS announced last week that the first day they will be accepting tax returns is Monday, January 23rd. So our sites are really excited to get up and going. Most will not be open until the beginning of February, but a few are opening in the next couple of weeks to start accepting and processing those returns. We also will be hiring a new position to work with our VITA program, and that's going to be the Community Engagement and Data Specialist. So that position is currently posted on our website. So we are taking applications. If you know anybody that would be a good fit for that, please direct them to our website. We are also currently looking for new host sites for our VITA program. So whether it's a pop-up site, which would be just like a 1 or 2 day event, or a more permanent site that we could have ongoing, you can talk to our associate director, Jessica, who works with our VITA program, and she can work with you on getting that VITA site going. And of course, we're always looking for new volunteers. Our sites can't run without volunteers. And they are always maxed out and super busy. So we're always looking for new volunteers for our VITA program. So if you're interested, please reach out to us and we can work on getting you hooked up with a site that is near your location. We also have a new website, coloradovita.org. It's not new, it's new to us. It is something that we have taken control of as an organization, and we will be updating that particular website with a really fun interactive map for a VITA site locator. But if you were just looking for general updates, or you want to direct any of your clients to coloradovita.org, we also will have the link to the VITA site locator through the IRS. And that is also still a project that the IRS is working on. So it may not be completely up to date, but they are working on it. Josiah has put up on our slide a link for all of our wonderful IRS programs, child tax credit, the earned income tax credit. You can always visit the IRS website to find out more information on those. And then on Thursday, there's also going to be a webinar that is being hosted by the IRS for resources for those tax preparers that are working at our VITA sites. So if you have not registered or you'd like to register, feel free to do that if you are running a VITA program. And I think that is everything that I have for VITA. Thanks,
Any
Josiah.
questions? Yeah, thanks, Liz. Any questions on VITA or the child tax credit or the earned income tax credit for Liz? Anything that we can keep in mind as we move forward into the tax season? Well, strongly encourage you all to refer your customers and your community to our VITA services, our partner VITA services throughout the state. There's also a great website for those that feel technically capable of doing their own returns called myfreetaxes.com. So households can actually do their own taxes through that software online. It's really handy. Don't have to pay for a tax preparer. It's obviously for certain types of tax returns. Once it gets to a certain level, then you can no longer do it through that website, but another great resource out there. Great. Moving on with other updates from the CCAA, we've completed pretty much everybody's 2023 activities and projection spreadsheets. We will be looking forward to the revision period where you all can revise those projections if you'd like after you get done with your annual report that was already referenced. Just a reminder that these are projections and we don't expect them to be 100% accurate, but if you are looking at your 2022 annual report data and you're finding that you really do need to revise them because there's pretty major variation on what you projected, we can certainly talk through that and make those updates. This is a really important part of the ROMA cycle, so I want to encourage you all again to take a look at your projections after you do your annual report data and aggregate it and just make sure we're on base for our projections and they're based in what you've seen and your analyzation of your current data. We do ask you that as you move into your report that you do report around those tripartite board members, so keep that in mind. And then also remember that Module 4, Section A, Item 7A, the total number of individuals, participants served, and the total count of individuals that obtained one or more outcomes. Those are aggregate, unduplicated counts across everything you do. So as you're doing your annual report, just friendly reminder that when you get to that Item 7A, that's unduplicated number of individuals served overall. And it's going to be the number of unduplicated individuals that obtained at least one outcome, one or more outcomes. So big reminders there. And then for those of you that are considering revising or adding new services or strategies to your projections, or as you're going through your needs assessment and thinking about your community action plan and how your community action plan may reflect new activities for your organization or your programs, there is an example of how agencies can use multiple services to get multiple outcomes. And it's really useful to kind of think through how you may be combining multiple things into getting multiple outcomes as you're looking at your community action plan. So again, a resource there for you all. Wanted to talk a little bit more further about the needs assessment and the community action plan process. This is that 3-year required community needs assessment, including resources in the community that drives into the community action plan. That's all going to be due to DOLA in October of 2023. And so that's a part of the CSBG application process that eligible entities go through every 3 years. And it does drive the next 3-year contract and how you all are planning to use your CSBG funds in the future. There's some really great resources that we're going to make sure folks have access to. One is the State Demography Office's CSBG data for you all broken down by your service areas. So really appreciate DOLA staff, Alex and Becky and company, working with the demographer's office to update that really great data source for you all. So we'll just take a real quick look at it real quickly here, if possible. So here is when you go to that link and it's on the demographer's main page at the bottom, you can go and it says CSBG grants dashboard. You'll select your agency from the drop down up top here. And this will basically give you all of your service area that you're all of the service area in your area. So if you serve multiple counties, it'll bring up the data for multiple counties across these major data elements. And really, we tried to make sure that we weren't duplicating data elements in this resource and in the other resource that's mentioned in our slides, the National Community Action Partnerships Data Hub, which is the resource I'm showing on my screen now. Both of these different resources give really quality quantitative data that we can rely upon when using the needs assessment, and their different types of data segments. So please do use both of these wonderful resources that we have available to you. We at the CCAA are putting together a website that will have all of these different web resources in one place. And you can go to our website and you can go and get access to that National Community Action Partnership Data Hub tool. And there's also a link to the DOLA data dashboard as well. So please do plan to use both of those data sources. Very useful. And they're going to help you all to make sure that your needs assessment is meeting the organizational standards requirements around the needs assessment, specifically that you're collecting quantitative data around certain areas and for specific populations, and looking at it such as poverty data and its prevalence related to gender, age, race, and ethnicity, and others. You'll also want to make sure that your needs assessment clearly identifies and analyzes customer satisfaction data, whether that's internal to your department, your program, your agency, or through partner programs or other agency partners in the community. There is an organizational requirement that customer satisfaction data is included in that needs assessment. And then also there's a requirement that data from other key sectors, and the org standard is really very specific in what other key sectors data needs to be included in the needs assessment, but it's such as education, the healthcare, other public organizations, faith-based organizations, etc. You really need to be collecting data and including that in your needs assessment from other key sectors and partners in the community. Need to make sure that the needs assessment has a really clear statement on the causes and the conditions of poverty. This is also, again, another organizational standard requirement that the needs assessment has very clear causes and conditions of poverty for your service area. And so we expect to see very clear language that talks about the causes of poverty in the service area, and then very clear language around the conditions of poverty in the service area. And if you want to talk to us more in detail about what the difference is between a cause and a condition of poverty, let us know and we can certainly set that up. And it's something that we'll do during our needs assessment trainings as well. Big reminder that the tripartite board or the advisory committee needs to review and accept the needs assessment. So there's going to need to be documentation that shows that the tripartite board did formally accept that needs assessment in a meeting, and it needs to be in meeting minutes. And you'll use that to show compliance with the relevant organizational standard moving forward for the next 3 years after we do this process. Obviously, the needs assessment drives the community action plan. So once you complete the needs assessment, then you're going to be moving into that community action plan, which basically talks about how you all are specifically planning to use the CSBG funding over the next 3 years, the 2024 through 2026 program periods. We, as Alex discussed in their update, are going to have a ton of training and technical assistance available for you all. There's going to be that web page on our CCA website that has a bunch of resources on it that you all can use for your needs assessments. And we're going to be offering regular trainings and recordings on the needs assessment community action plan process. And we're also going to be using our 2023 regional forums that are coming up this summer to delve deeper into both of these processes, as well as to really ensure you all have a good idea of how you want to manage your performance over the next 3 years as well. So looking at the needs assessment, looking at the action plan, and then planning for how you all will show your actual performance through the community action plan moving forward. So a lot coming down the pipeline for us around the needs assessment community action plan. Really excited for the process and excited to see the work that you all put forth and what you're planning to do in the next 3-year period. Any questions or comments on the needs assessment or community action plan? Okay. Moving right along, we wanted to update you all. The CCAA has applied for to become the statewide lead for the FCC Affordable Connectivity Program grant, or the ACP program, for outreach and enrollment statewide. For those of you that don't know about the ACP program, this is a monthly stipend for internet service for low-income households. I believe it's $30 per month. You can see a little bit of information on it. The eligibility is 200% of the FPL, so it aligns perfectly right now with the income eligibility for our program and CSBG. And so certainly want you all to be aware of this program. We are feeling very confident that we're going to be chosen as a lead agency to do the outreach and enrollment across the state. And so we're going to be putting out materials around the program, and we're going to be having staff out in the communities hosting outreach events and getting folks enrolled in person to the program. But certainly would appreciate you all right now looking at how you can really provide some publicity to the program with your customers and with your partners. Make sure that folks know about this program. And when you delve into some of the data, and we'll provide resources on where you can get the data, and you look at enrollment for counties across the state, there's a lot of you all, especially in rural areas, that have really small enrollment percentages right now. We're talking 10% of your eligible population is actually enrolled in this program. And this is money in folks' pockets each month. And so we definitely want folks to take advantage of this and to receive this resource when they're eligible. So please do be aware of it. If you know of folks that are eligible but aren't enrolled, you can send them to the FCC application website. And certainly if you need any help with getting folks through that process, let us know. Similarly, we are just submitted a letter of intent to the Division of Housing's Transformational Homelessness Response Grant Program. Specifically, the CCA is looking at leading a data collection, analyzation, and utilization type program and project with agencies across the state that are using the Homelessness Management Information System, or HMIS, or are providing services to the unhoused. And so it's really a data project that we're looking at doing for those agencies that might be affected by this project. We'll be reaching out to you if we haven't already in the near future, but also wanted you all just to be aware of this NOFA because there's a lot of resources for local communities and local agencies in the response to homelessness. And so it's a great resource. If you have agencies that work with the unhoused, please do ensure that they know of this NOFA and that they can ensure that they have information on it. Looks like we got a chat comment or question. Jared asks, where can we find data on the enrolled participants compared to eligible participants in your county? Jared's county happens to be Pueblo. Thanks for that question, Jared. We have a great resource. Jessica Roshan, our associate director, found it. Jessica, if you wouldn't mind, I believe you're on. If you could put the link to that one data source that gives the GIS ARC data for each county and put that in the chat, that'd be greatly appreciated. So look for that to go up here in the chat here in a couple minutes. Thanks for the question. So again, please do make sure that all your agencies, and if you're in a county, the department that maybe works with HMIS or with the unhoused, know about this transformational homelessness response grant that's out there. Okay, a little bit about our regional forums. We're looking at scheduling those now. We've identified 10 communities that we're going to take out our one-day training, in-person training. It's open to the community. Like I mentioned, we're going to really be working around needs assessment and action planning, and looking at how we can make sure that we plan to be able to assess our performance around everything we're doing. So really excited about the agenda that we're building with our partners at DOLA. It's a one-day training we're envisioning. Lunch will be included. It'll be free. We'll have our registration opening up soon. The next step is to work with each of these communities to get date on our calendars that work for those local communities as best as possible. So if you are an eligible entity for one of these areas, be on the lookout from an email from us at the CCAA asking you to help us to identify a good one day that we can bring our 2023 regional forum to your community. And we'll be working through that with you all. So looking forward to the 2023 community action regional forums that we're going to be doing. And just some other updates that we have around what's going on. We at the CCAA are just about to undertake a strategic planning process ourselves. So between now and roughly the fall, we're working with CAVI consultants to do our board of directors strategic planning. Obviously, this will affect all of you all in what we provide and really our focus that we have at the association. There's a strong component for stakeholder involvement and input in the process. So we expect to pull our DOLA partners into it as appropriate. And we expect to pull a lot of you all as eligible entities and our direct customers into this process too. So be on the lookout for that and how you can be involved and provide input as we do our strategic planning process at the association. We are getting ready to roll out the virtual Roma trainings for the winter and spring 2023 into the summer. So be on the lookout for those. We're planning on having 5 virtual trainings, and these virtual trainings are composed of 3 3-hour sessions. And so we'll schedule them. Generally, it'll be 3 weeks in a row that we'll have our 3-hour session on a certain day at a certain time. And we encourage you all as much as possible to share that with your partners and encourage your board and any subrecipients to attain, and of course your staff to attend those virtual Roma trainings as appropriate. We don't expect folks to attend a virtual Roma training or Roma training every year, but we do see folks attending over and over again and telling us that they get a lot out of the training. So feel free to attend. If you've already attended in the past, that's okay. And then again, if you're new or you have new board members or new staff or you have subrecipients that could use the training, this is a great opportunity for them. Want to make note that Jessica thanks Jessica, that ArcGIS data source into the chat bar, so you all can go and see what the enrolled percentage compared to eligibility in your area is. And I think it even breaks down counties into smaller areas, so you can even get more focused. And generally it's tied to a major urban area or major town center in the county. So take a look at that. It's a great way to see, where we're at around eligibility for the ACP program. And really in our plan, we're going to be going statewide with our outreach and enrollment. So expect to hear from our staff and trying to host some in-person stuff down in your community over the next couple of years. Thanks, Jessica. We do have various tripartite board trainings available, including the CSBG intent and purposes training. And we have a Roma for boards training that we could do virtually or in person if appropriate. So please do reach out to us if we can provide any of those trainings to your board. It looks like Jessica put another resource up in the chat around the ACP program as well, so you can take a look at that. We do have our membership period open for 2022, 2023. Membership really is important to us. We'd love to have all of you as eligible entities members, ongoing members of the association. We believe it's really affordable. It's based on the amount of CSBG funding you receive every year. So please do take a look at that and really really encourage you to become members if you aren't already. For all of you that are members already, really appreciate your support as always. It means a lot to us. Next Board of Directors meeting for us is on Friday, March 10th. All are welcome. Please email us if you're interested in attending that Zoom meeting. Our meetings are always the second Friday of the month, every other month at 11 a.m. and run for about 2 hours. Some upcoming national trainings and conferences I want to have on everybody's radar. We have the National Community Action Partnerships 2023 Management and Leadership Training Conference back in person this year. Yay. In New Orleans, February 8th through the 10th. I believe registration's closed for that. But we do have Liz Espinoza from the association attending, and we'll plan on Liz updating us on her experience and anything she learned at that conference at a future quarterly call. We also have the NCAF 2023 Legislative Conference back in person. Really excited about that. It's been a couple of years that we've done virtual. Back in person in Washington, D.C., March 14th through the 17th. The NCAF Legislative Conference is always top notch. You get speakers and presenters that are cutting edge. Some of the most well-known politicians in America from both sides of the aisle will be in attendance and will be speaking. Really encourage you to consider going. On top of that, we always do our legislative visits with our Congress people and with our senators during this visit. Liz Espinoza is going to be attending and leading on behalf of the CCAA. We'll have 1 or 2 board members attending as well. But it's always really great to have local representation at this conference and at these legislative meetings. So if anybody is interested in attending this conference and or helping us with these in-person legislative visits that we schedule on the 16th and 17th of that week, where we actually go to the Congress people or senator's office and meet with staff and update them on the program, please let us know. We have some funding set aside that we can support your attendance, and we always love to have a strong local contingent in DC when we attend this conference and do these legislative visits. Likewise, NASCAS Midwinter Conference is back in person. I think you're catching a theme here, which is exciting. April 3rd through the 7th in Arlington, Virginia. NASCAS conferences are always a really wonderful way to understand what's coming down from our federal partners at OCS and what our state office folks are being asked to do moving forward. Always really great updates from state office and from OCS folks. NASCASP is also a great conference for those of you that are involved in weatherization and or LIHEAP as well, as it always has a really strong weatherization track involved in it. CapLaw, our legal experts out of Boston, are doing their annual conference in person, June 27th through the 29th in Austin, Texas. CapLaw is always a really great conference to attend to really understand what requirements are in the federal statute, what uniform guidance is. They also do a lot around Head Start and weatherization as well. And we always encourage folks to attend CapLaw whenever possible. Again, let us know if you can use some financial support to make that happen for you, your staff, your board members, your stakeholders locally. And then lastly, for our upcoming national trainings and conferences, we have our Community Action Partnership 2023 annual convention. This is going to be August 23rd through 25th in Atlanta, Georgia. The partnership conference and convention is always one of the best trainings or conferences anybody can attend on a regular basis. So again, strongly encourage you all, your staff, your board members to attend if possible. And if we at the CCAA can provide support in any way, you let us know. And that is it for our updates.
There's a question from Jared. Do you want to hop off mute and ask your question, Jared?
All right. It's actually from Tammy. Can you all hear us?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're in the same office. I just, to take us back a couple slides, Josiah, for the eligible but not enrolled, is that eligible based off of income? And we don't even know if those folks have internet service, or do we know that those people have internet service but aren't and income qualified but are not enrolled? If you could just clarify that piece for us.
That is a great question, Tammy and Jared, and I don't know the answer off the top of my head. Jessica, do you happen to know the answer of that? We can get the answer for you all, of course, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, so there might be mixed messages kind of coming from service providers, which is one thing we're gonna have to tackle. But if somebody already has internet service, but they're not on the ACP program, we just need to get them switched over to that. So if you know that they're eligible and they're already connected, but they're not on ACP in particular, then we need to make that switch with the provider. The provider, some of them have turned people away because there's been this misinformation out there that if you're already connected, it's too late, and that's just not true. So great to bring that up so we can clarify. If you're eligible and your income verified, we can get you connected, whether you already have service or not.
Okay, I think that just helps us with our outreach when we're talking to our customers here at the department. You know, starting at the appropriate question
Yeah,
is helpful. Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you. And again, when someone calls a service provider, they might hear that since they're already connected, they are not eligible, but that is not true. So we just need to unfortunately, keep working to get them connected and enrolled under the appropriate program.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Great question. Thanks, Jessica, for the nuances there. And we're really, again, confident we're going to get this grant, and we're going to be doing statewide enrollment and outreach. So be on the lookout for a lot more resources around this. And we'll be asking you how we can support you to do as much outreach and enrollment as possible locally too. Had some questions privately in chat about how folks can tap into some resources to attend some of the national trainings and conferences we have coming up. Just a reminder that the CCAA does have scholarships available for capacity building and professional development opportunities for you, your staff, your board members, your subrecipient partners. If you're interested in attending a training and you need some support to attend that training or any type of real professional development or other capacity building activity, go to our website. You can do an online application, and we'll go ahead and look at that over and get back to you. So appreciate that question too. Any other questions or comments on our updates from the CCAA?
I have a comment. I thought it was fantastic, Joseph. Yeah, that's my comment. Alrighty. Well, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for the continued excellence that you display in all of your work. Again, thank you for cranking out the annual report for us. We appreciate it. We know it's not easy and it's a heavy lift, and that does not go unnoticed. So thank you, of course. Anytime you need support from either myself or the folks at the Colorado Community Action Association, please don't hesitate to reach out. There's no question too small. We are always happy to help. And yeah, thank you so much. We will, I'm sure, be in communication soon, and hope you have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.